Hi, I'm Tia with Badass Therapy, and today I'm going to talk about a training by Deb Dana. As part of my training for the Safe and Sound Protocol, I had to watch a training by her so that I could more effectively administer at distance, right? Since now I'm doing all of my sessions online. And so one of the first things that she said really stuck out to me is that we have these two drives, the drive to survive and the longing to connect. And the idea that sometimes these work together and other times they're in complete opposition to each other. So, for example, as an infant, my primary caregiver is most likely the person who helps me survive and most likely the person that I want to connect to the most. And so, if they are a safe person and they are, in fact, behaving as somebody I want to connect with, those two things work together, right? If my caregiver is somebody who is not a safe person and I want to connect to them, right? Because oftentimes infants still want to connect to their primary caregivers, even if they're not safe people, right? That idea that I want to connect with this person, but in order to survive, I have to avoid them, then all of a sudden those two things are in opposition. We also often see this when people want to connect with people who aren't safe for them as adults, right? The abusive relationships. Or the idea that sometimes in order to survive, I can't connect, right? I have to prioritize my own safety and I can't prioritize connecting with other people. That often happens right now in pandemic world, right? In order to protect my own safety, I have to social distance. I have to, stay at home, decrease my exposure because I'm high risk. But I really want to connect with people, and that's much more challenging to do in this way, particularly since I'm an introvert. And so it's really this interesting idea because in often many of the other trainings that I've been in, we call it approach avoidance, right? Where the person that I want to approach is also the person that I want to avoid. And that this is one of the really confusing things that comes up for infants and for toddlers in our early developmental experiences is that we want to approach this person. They're our caregiver. We care about them. We love them, but also they're this scary person that we want to get away from. And so that is one of the most confusing things about early developmental trauma is this approach avoidance, right? I want to be towards this person, but I also want to get away, and I don't know what to do with that. So one of the other things she talked about was Stephen Porges's statement that trauma is a chronic disruption of connectedness, which absolutely makes sense, right? Particularly when we're looking at this idea of, developmental trauma, right? Our early experiences as an infant, our early experiences as a toddler, right? It is this chronic state of this other person not connecting to us, not responding to our needs, not responding the way that we want. Right, and many interpersonal trauma, right? We are not connected to that other person anymore. A lot of what they've shown with whether or not people end up with post-traumatic stress disorder is how much they felt connected, how much they felt safe after the incident. And so we're not even just looking at how connected was somebody during the trauma, we're also looking at were they connected to somebody after. One of the other quotes that she said was that a healing environment is a safe environment, and a safe environment is a healing environment, which I just love that idea, right? It's the idea that we have to feel safe in order for us to co-regulate, right? For us to connect with other people in a way that feels healing to, our emotions. We have to be able to feel safe in order to be able to relax enough that our body enters into states where it is healing. And so I just really loved that idea about the fact that in order to heal, we really need these safe environments. We really need these safe environments in order to heal. My dog is currently telling me that there's something not safe in my environment. He's barking behind me. Not sure if you can hear that. So, one of the interesting things that she talked about during the thing of different acts of self-care is stretching. And she made an offhand comment about something that stretching supports or triggers or something. She also talked about self-touch, right? This idea that we can hug ourselves, or this idea that we can kind of rub ourselves, and because she kept doing this, right, during the training. And so it was this interesting idea of where are those places where we can kind of nurture ourselves. One of the other things that she encouraged us to do in order to sort of calm ourselves was sighing. So, definition of sighing, according to her, is a slow exhalation that is made out loud. And one of the really cool things that she talked about that I thought was really interesting is that there are 3 types of sighs. We sigh in relief, we sigh in frustration, and we sigh as a sign of contentment. And it was particularly amazing to me because right at the time that she was talking about sighs, my dog, who sighs all the time, let out this very large, loud sigh, which was super cute. So, one of the other things that I thought she found that she described that was helpful for me was that she said that 5 minutes of viewing nature, either in real life or on a video, doesn't matter which one, it helps your nervous system return to feeling safe and social more quickly after a stressor. And so, if you have watched 5 minutes of nature on a video or anything before therapy, then when you experience the stress of therapy and talking about those stressful things, once that stressor has gone away, your body will actually return to feeling safe and social more quickly, which is really cool because it's super in line with this idea that I have that I'd like my office to eventually be in the foothills of the mountains so that folks are exposed to nature on their way to my office, they're exposed to nature on the way from my office, and it was really cool to learn that that will help them in order to be able to be more resilient from stressors. The last thing that she talked about that I found really fascinating was that warmth and confidence are the top two qualities that people seek in a therapist. And it's really interesting for me, right? Because one of the things that I first learned as a victim advocate was that part of what I had to learn how to say was very confidently, I don't know, and share with people that I'm going to try to figure out the answer. And so it's interesting of how do we portray confidence? How do we show that we're confident? What does that look like? For many people, it has this sort of different feel to it depending on what's going on. Also, warmth, right? One of my thoughts with that was how culturally contextual that is, and how in different, ideas, there's different things that show warmth, right? And that for each individual person that shows warmth, particularly with our attachment stuff. And so it's just really interesting to me to think about how we sort of define those concepts in a way that shows how much each of us chooses a different therapist, right? Because what feels warm and confident to one person isn't what feels warm and confident to somebody else. So I hope that some of these concepts were helpful for you. I certainly encourage you to try stretching, try some self-touch, try some sighing, see how that feels. Think in your own life about where that, drive to survive, where that longing to connect with somebody, where do those two pieces show up for you? And how do they show up in your life? So again, thank you so much for sharing your time and for showing up today.